rockets are still being fired very intensely from the Gaza Strip. We've also seen more and more videos and pictures come from the Palestinian fighters that have infiltrated into the Israeli towns. We've seen fighters taking over Erez crossing and pictures of Israeli soldiers there being killed. We've also seen videos of Israeli tank set on fire while Palestinian fighters around it celebrating. Other Israeli vehicles, another one was taken in the early hours of the morning, another one now in Gaza Strip. So two armed vehicles in Gaza taken by the Palestinian fighters. We've also recently just received a video showing, a very short video of 10 seconds, showing two Israeli soldiers being captured in the hands of the Palestinian fighters. They say they have captured these two soldiers alive. The video, of course, shows the soldiers alive. The confrontations are still taking place inside those Israeli towns. Also, Palestinian fighters, have also said that they have taken over Ashkelon prison, which is after the Israeli town of Ashkelon, which is about 45 minutes away from the Erez crossing in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. So this shows how far the Palestinian fighters have infiltrated into the Israeli towns from the borders with Gaza.
Right. Let's talk about the Erez crossing, because it's in the north of Gaza Strip. It has been under full Israeli control and presumably very high security. It's extraordinary that it's been taken, isn't it?
It's very extraordinary that this Erez crossing could be taken over by Palestinian fighters. But not just the Erez crossing, Nick, really. All the borders are set to be on very high security, very high amounts of soldiers deployed on the security fence between Gaza and Israel. It's very difficult to actually anticipate that there could be any kind of infiltration through these borders, to break these borders into the Israeli borders. I mean, there's always, whenever there is any kind of movement by the borders, even in the buffer zone, which we call in the Palestinian side itself, away about 300 meters to 100 meters away from that separating fence, there is always an attack to stop that movement, whatever kind of it. So there has been a lot of young people trying to infiltrate, unarmed civilians trying to infiltrate many times. And Israeli army just says that it has arrested them, investigated them, and sent them back, for they did not hold any kind of threat towards. They just approached that fence. So for this kind of operation to happen in this amount and this precise way is really beyond imagination. A great surprise, not just to the Israeli side, but even to the residents of Gaza.
Yumna, just give us an idea of the sense, the mood there in Gaza amongst residents there, given the events that have unfolded so rapidly today.
Well, as this operation has been launched, it started in the very early hours of this day, Saturday. Everything was already closed. All shops were already closed. They hadn't yet opened. But now areas or neighborhoods have instructed their local markets, local shops and supermarkets to open so that people can get their necessities and food food supplies quickly because of what could be happening in the next coming hours. And the Israeli response on these attacks or these rockets being launched from Gaza. Now, as for the people, people here in Gaza have already been living under a stifling Israeli blockade for the past 17 years. The sense is a common sense of fear and great worry because, again, we're talking about 2.3 million people living in 365 kilometers square, which means buildings adjacent to one another, homes adjacent to one another, very overcrowded refugee camps with thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in some refugee camps, which means that every airstrike or every targeting means that the entire neighborhood or the entire place surrounding that place targeted is into or subjected to a destruction as well. People here in Gaza also because...
Carry on.
Yes, Nick. Because of the borders, the Erez crossing, which only allows humanitarian cases and workers to cross into the occupied West Bank, is now totally closed, while the Rafah crossing into Egypt is also closed. It means that people here in Gaza are just not able to leave the Gaza Strip at any time. In most cases, they were not allowed. But now, as we are witnessing the beginning of a war, it makes or puts great pressure on the civilians that they have to stay in their homes and just witness this war.
Yumna, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thanks very much indeed. Yumna Al-Sayed, we can hear rockets still being fired out of Gaza across the border. Yumna, thanks very much indeed. For the time being. Excuse me. Let's cross now to Rob Reynolds, who's live for us in occupied East Jerusalem. Rob, what's happening there?
Well, it's been quiet for the last little bit here. There haven't been any more rockets in the sky that we could see, and no more sirens going off. But Israeli media is reporting that now at least 5 Israelis have been killed in the rocket barrage from Gaza. That's up from 1 earlier in the day. They say that rockets have impacted in Tel Aviv and in other cities in the southern part of Israel. This all, again, have to emphasize, coming as a total shock to Israeli citizens and to the Israeli government, and especially to Israeli intelligence, that this strike from Gaza on a scale such as this could take place without any warning, almost 50 years to the exact day of the 1973 October War that also took Israel completely by surprise and led to many, many Israeli army casualties. Again, here in Jerusalem, things appear to be calm, at least at the moment, in terms of any fighting, any rocket barrages, or any incursions, nothing like that here. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government and defense officials and intelligence officials are meeting, trying to establish what to do next. We have heard that the Israeli army has shelled some areas of Gaza. Again, there are, as we've been pointing out throughout the morning, apparently some Israeli soldiers taken captive by these armed incursions from Gaza. We've seen pictures of them on social media. Excuse me. They have been taken back into Gaza, so they are their status is unknown at the moment. So obviously that'll be a factor in the Israeli army's decision where and when to strike. They don't want to hurt their own people if that's avoidable in any way.
Right, and Rob, if I can just jump in there.
A full-scale response in the coming hours.
Yeah, this development of Israeli soldiers being taken prisoner really does present a different kind of dynamic to the usual scenario when these escalations happen.
Yes, it does. It's rare that Israeli soldiers are captured, and it shows, again, how extraordinary this operation is out of Gaza. The paragliders, the armed squads of men moving through the streets of Sderot, which is the city sort of closest to Gaza, the Israeli city. We see pictures of them in vehicles and on foot, moving apparently quite calmly and in a disciplined manner through the streets. I think we are hearing some sirens just now. Yes, somewhat distant. Samir, can you see any contrails in the sky?
I cannot see in the sky anything.
No, nothing in the sky at the moment. So my comments about things being calm here were apparently premature, or at least not entirely up to date. But getting back to the idea of captives, yes, indeed, there was an Israeli soldier captured on the border with Lebanon some years ago, whose fate ripped the entire nation and led to many months and years of negotiations, finally into okay, we're seeing seems like two contrails in the sky. I'm also seeing a puff of smoke that indicates that a rocket has been intercepted. You can hear sirens in the distance. I'd also point out that many of the streets and roads and highways leading into Jerusalem and leading towards the southern part of Israel have been closed as the army has declared a state of war alert. So we don't know what's happening with this particular missile. Are we seeing another one?
Yeah.
Where is it?
See this line?
Yeah. So Jerusalem still under attack from Gaza. The missiles that have traveled this far. Yes, I can see the contrails now. To really terrify the people who are living here. And getting back to that idea of the soldier who's been taken captive, I've seen videos of several soldiers who've been taken captive today. They seem to be not severely injured. One soldier on video seemed to be either very severely injured or dead. And that's going to be something we'll hear more about. But at the moment, we're waiting for the Israeli government to announce its response and begin its response in retaliation on Gaza and perhaps elsewhere. Back to you.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה. לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה. הבוקר חמאס פתח במתקפת פתע רצחני נגד מדינת ישראל ונגד אזרחיה. אנחנו בתוך זה משעות הבוקר המוקדמות. כינסתי את ראשי מערכת הביטחון, הנחיתי קודם כל לטהר את היישובים מהמחבלים שחדרו פנימה. הפעולה הזאת מתבצעת בשעות הללו. במקביל הוריתי לבצע גיוס מילואים נרחב ולהשיב מלחמה שערה בעוצמה ובהיקף שהאויב לא הכיר. האויב ישלם מחיר שהוא לא ידע מותו. אני קורא בינתיים לכל אזרחי ישראל להישמע בקפדנות להנחיות הצבא, להנחיות פיקוד העורף. אנחנו במלחמה ואנחנו ננצח בה.
While all life is sacred, the lives of Israelis are the ones that have been lost, and Hamas has launched an unprecedented attack against Israeli civilians. They have executed civilians in their homes in cold blood, women, children, elderly, and they have dragged the bodies, the bloody bodies, into Gaza in order to bargain with their bodies. That is what we are facing. So instead of considering ourselves what the consequences in Gaza will be, maybe we should focus first on what Hamas have done to Israel, how they have targeted Israeli civilians in a blatant aggression never before seen by Israel.
No one's disputing those civilian casualties in Israel. I agree with you. We have confirmations of those 22 deaths, over 500 injured. I'm wondering about what's next and how far this Israeli operation will go. Does that mean anything is fair game in Gaza?
Yeah, I think that Israeli civilians along in southern Israel and most of populated Israel for too long have been living in an unsustainable situation where we have an ISIS-like organization at our footsteps. And I've been saying this for years. So far, the visuals haven't supported it, but today, unfortunately, the visuals of executions by Palestinian jihadis going into Israel and killing Israeli civilians are exactly like the world saw a few years ago when Daesh was active.
Jonathan,
in other parts of the
can I
Middle
pick
East.
up on that point? You say you've been mentioning this for years. One of the things we're reporting on this Saturday is a massive security failure by the Israeli government. Netanyahu has been accused of ignoring warnings from the Israeli military that possibly an operation like this could occur. Could you reply to that?
I'm not sure that's very accurate. I think that we're talking more about the intelligence, the military level. Of course, everybody in official Israel will have to give answers to what happened and how a jihadi organization was able to do what they've done. The military, the intelligence, the Israeli security agency, Shabak, all of these, and the government, the ministers responsible will have to give answers, and this will take years to rectify the breach of the trust and the failure to do the first and basic commitment of any state is to defend and provide security. And today is a very sad day because Israel has failed at that. But rest assured that we will rectify the situation. And going back to your question about what's going to happen today and tomorrow, I don't think that Israel can allow itself to end this situation with Hamas while Hamas still is intact and governs the Gaza Strip. Because of the severity of the attack against Israel and because of the immense amount of casualties and the atrocities perpetrated by Hamas, I don't think that Israel can allow itself for Hamas to continue to live. The price will be heavy. There will be civilian casualties, there will be military casualties, but at the end of the day...
The price sounds like annihilation.
Of Hamas, indeed. Hamas have, to use the words of one Israeli general, they have opened the floodgates of hell upon Gaza by butchering Israeli civilians in the way that they have, by taking more than 50 Israelis hostage into Gaza. They have opened the floodgates of hell on Gaza. And this is a situation that will take days or weeks or months to set straight. But at the end of it, I don't think that Israel can allow Hamas to continue to govern and to fester and to build these immense facilities and capabilities at our borders again.
Jonathan, while we have you, I was wondering if you could respond. There's been disinformation, misinformation. What can you tell us about reports of Israeli soldiers and civilians being taken hostage?
So far, what I'm relying on is unfortunately Hamas information, and they claim to have more than 50 Israelis in Gaza, which is an astronomical number that in our worst nightmares we couldn't even imagine, not in the worst scenarios. I'll have to wait for official numbers from Israel, from the IDF spokesperson, and from the Prime Minister's office to see and corroborate if that is true. But we can say for now, for sure, that there are multiple Israelis, dead and alive, that have been taken by Hamas into the Gaza Strip. And this is a situation that Israel will have to solve. It will solve it using force, diplomacy, and whatever tools it has at its disposal in order to bring back its citizens and soldiers to Israel.
Just another question. We saw from people, from officials, from journalists, concern that there was no public comment from Israel hours into this fighting after reports that hundreds of Israelis were injured. Was this an aspect that Israel, its government, its military was so caught off guard that it was scrambling to respond?
Yes, I think that both on the tactical military level and on the public information level, Israel leaves a lot to be amended for the future. And I think that Israel needs to get out as quickly as possible and start fighting the media war as well. We're in the first day of what will be a long campaign, which starts with butchered Israelis, but it will end with an Israeli victory. How we will get there and what the diplomatic price will have to pay on the way remains to be seen, but we definitely need to get working diplomatically and in terms of public affairs in order to fight the media battle and to confront the Hamas narrative, and once it becomes relevant, also to deal with the images that will be coming out of Gaza of Israeli retaliations.
Jonathan, as you were responding there, a wire came across that at least 40 Israelis have been confirmed killed, 740 wounded. That's Israel's N12 News reporting that. Do you have any idea if those casualties are accurate or if the figure might be far, far higher than what's being reported, and something we'll discover as the time goes on?
I fear that, like in most cases of emergencies and situational surprises or foundational surprises, the official numbers will rise, unfortunately, and as minutes and hours will go by, we will learn of more and more Israeli casualties. The more Israeli casualties, the more severe